April 22nd. I woke up a little earlier than usual. I opened my phone to check the time, and one thing shocked me. My last YouTube video got a lot more views overnight. Then, something else caught my eyes. It's The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered shadow dropped out of nowhere. Just a couple hours after it went live, Oblivion Remastered is grinding its way up to Steam's most playlist and now has hit the peak of 190,000 concurrent players on the platform. I was super surprised at the fact that I finally have a kinda new Elder Scrolls game to play after more than a decade. And we also have some positive comments on the progress of The Elder Scrolls 6 by Todd Howard himself.
Obviously, we're working on the 6th chapter here.
Guess we have more than a folder created here. Before we talk about the game itself, I really want to talk about this shadow drop situation. If you can recall, this is not the first remastered game shadow drop this year. About 3 months ago, Ninja Gaiden 2 Black shadow dropped the day it got announced on January 29th and got a lot of attention since it was also a day one Xbox Game Pass release, just like The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered. So why does shadow dropping work so well? It hits you with surprise. No month of teasing, no overhype, just boom, it's out. That instant rush of discovery gets people talking right away, and the whole thing feels more organic and exciting. For developers, it avoids unrealistic expectations, cut down costs, and dodges early media opinions, so players go in fresh and form their own take without the bias or pressure from early reviews. That brings me to why this shadow drop hit a little different for me. Because for someone like me, who never actually played the original Oblivion, this wasn't just a surprise release, it was a chance to finally step into a world I missed out on. The only Elder Scrolls game I've really spent time with was Skyrim, and I've played through it more times than I could count over the past decade. Like, we all know how these Bethesda games work. You start off thinking you will just stick to the main quest, maybe explore a few caves, and suddenly you are knee-deep in side quests, collecting cheese whales and adopting children in Whiterun. I messed around in the game so much that I only actually finished the main story twice. It's one of those games I'd keep coming back again and again, and each time I'd find something new. So when I saw the remastered version of Oblivion pop up, I didn't even hesitate. Even though I never played the original, I knew that if it had even a fraction of the same charm and world building, I'd enjoy it, no matter what. First of all, for a game that originally came out 2 decades ago, this remaster really doesn't feel old at all, mostly thanks to the visual and audio upgrades we've got here. It's on par with one of those cutting-edge, next-gen graphics experience we see today, offering a way more immersive experience. Honestly, I can already imagine people like me who never played Oblivion before being way more likely to give it a shot just because of the visual upgrade. And the audio? That's where it really surprised me. In fact, I'd argue it's an even bigger improvement than the visuals. As someone who's actually worked in game audio before, this is something I personally care about more. The original Oblivion had to cut a lot of corners in the audio department because of hardware limitations at the time. What suffered the most, in my opinion, was the dialogue. There just wasn't much variety, and the way lines were delivered felt repetitive. And back then, spatial audio tech wasn't nearly as advanced as it is now. Ambient sound benefits a lot from this. Another important audio upgrade is probably the combat sounds. They have way better clarity and coverage during fights, which gives player much better feedback compared to the original. I won't go too deep into the details, but if you are curious about the audio side of things, there's a great video by YouTuber Marshall McGee that breaks it all down. I highly recommend checking it out. He does a great job comparing the original to the remaster. They also changed the way the upgrade system works. It's more like Skyrim, where your skills level up based on what you actually do. I really like this change because I'm someone who has a huge problem making choices. Staring at a traditional RPG skill tree honestly drives me a little crazy sometimes. Unfortunately, the other thing that doesn't feel old is the problems. I'm not even talking about old bugs from the original game. I'm talking about the kind of issues we keep seeing in modern games nowadays. For some reason, it feels like every game built on Unreal Engine 5 lately has some level of performance issue. And yeah, my laptop is definitely struggling. As someone who doesn't have a high-end PC, my laptop with an AMD Ryzen 7 5800H CPU and RTX 3070 laptop GPU can barely keep the frame rate above 60 FPS in outdoor environments, even on medium setting with FSR frame generation turned on. At this point, running new games natively at 1080p just isn't possible for me anymore. Without upscaling, whether it's FSR or DLSS, I just can't play these games at a reasonable frame rate. And then there's the 118GB install size. I get it. Textures take up a lot of space, but I really wish the install size was a bit smaller. Like I said earlier, I already struggle with making choices. I hate the feeling of having to pick which games to keep or delete from my computer every other week. I know the Shadow Drop brought a lot of attention to this game. For a while, people were just playing and enjoying it, but eventually the controversy started popping up. The one I keep seeing the most is about body type instead of gender. Okay, let's talk about this. As someone who's from a place where there's basically no DEI stuff, I'm probably not the most qualified to say anything. In case you're not familiar, DEI stands for diversity, equality, and inclusivity. Let me put it like this. This is a game that originally came out 20 years ago. The design back then clearly wasn't made with DEI in mind, not like many games nowadays. And I heard there are even some missions that use gender-specific elements to give players a different experience. Not to mention, the dialogue definitely doesn't take modern pronoun preferences into account either. So here's what I think. There's really no reason to change the gender option into body type. It feels kind of forced, and honestly, it doesn't help much. It just adds another layer of confusion. And this might sting a little, but some of the game companies that are really leaning hard into DEI stuff lately aren't exactly doing great, at least from what I've seen. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. Another issue I've noticed, and it's a pretty valid one, is how the shadow drop of a massive title like Oblivion Remastered can impact smaller studios. Jonas Antonsen, founder and CEO of Raw Fury, publisher of Post Trauma, said, "From the perspective of indies and indie publishers, this is the problem with these sort of massive shadow drop. Everything more or least gets buried. We don't have the cash or muscle to throw around, so everything is carefully planned, including when to release based on other releases, etc., to try to maximize the chances of getting attention. It's a real concern. Indie developers don't have the marketing power or visibility that AAA studios do, so timing is everything for them. A surprise drop from a legendary franchise can completely wipe out their moment in the spotlight." That said, not everyone's taking it hard. The publisher of Clear Obscure Expedition 33 seemed to roll with it and even joked about the situation on X. Different studios are handling it in different ways, but I definitely understand the frustration. When you've poured your heart into something only to have it get completely overshadowed by a giant like Oblivion, it's gotta sting. One more thing I want to briefly touch on is the problem with modern AAA games. I probably will make a separate video diving deeper into this, but here's the short version. A lot of people, myself included, are starting to feel like modern AAA games are kinda boring. And honestly, the constant wave of remasters from early 2000s games says a lot. It shows that players are still enjoying those older titles, maybe even more than what's coming out today. Whether it's the Elder Scrolls Oblivion or Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, like I mentioned earlier, I'm generally impressed by how well these games were designed. Even now, with some visual upgrades, they hold up, and in some ways, they're actually better than many modern titles. Games are supposed to be fun and rewarding to play, not just about buying skins or grinding through retention system that feels more like chores than gameplay. Same goes for making YouTube videos. I try not to overload them with retention tricks and just focus on giving you something generally useful. So if you made it this far and found any of this helpful, consider subscribing so you won't miss any of my future updates. How do you like the remastered version of Oblivion? Please share in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like the video too, and I will see you in the next one.